Can you believe I did not know about bowl koozies until just recently, and now I'm hooked. And you will be too. They're super easy, beginner friendly. They take no time at all to make. And I'm going to show you how to make them without having to buy a template. So you too can have a whole bunch of bowl koozies to give to your friends or keep for yourself. And here's another example. This is just a clear bowl. It's one of my prep bowls and it fits right down there as well. And this will be perfect to melt chocolate with. I'll learn today. I'm going to show you how to make a bowl koozie without a template, just using 2 squares of a layer cake, 2 pieces of batting, and some cotton thread. And I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks along the way. All right, so before we get into how easy these bowl koozies are to make, we do have to talk about a little rule. So to make these safe for the microwave, you have to use 100% cotton fabric. Your batting has to be 100% cotton, and your thread has to be 100% cotton. No metallic, no anything that's not cotton. Otherwise, it's not quite good for your microwave. So to make them completely microwave safe, all cotton. And with that, let's talk about what we're going to need in order to make these bowl koozies. And I know you're going to love them. The supply list is in the link below, so just go pull that. So I'm going to be using fabric from the All is Autumn collection, and I think you'll recognize it. It's the same one I made the concept bag for, the Jeanette bag. If you've not seen that video, go check it out. And again, they are 10 by 10 squares, so let me just show you. And for each cozy, you're going to need 2, one for the front and one for the back, or one for the inside and one for the outside. You're going to need 100% cotton batting. And again, I use this Wrap and Zap, but you can use any brand that you like, again, as long as it's 100% cotton. Can't stress that enough. So the thumbnail does say it's no template, but I'm going to show you how to make a template just in case you want one. And it's going to take you back to the days when we used to make paper snowflakes. So with that, I'm going to walk you through the steps, and then I'm going to actually show you the process. And in fact, this video is probably longer than it will take you to make one. So here are the steps that I'm going to run you through in today's tutorial. We're going to pick our fabric, which again, I'm using layer cakes. If you don't, just cut 2 10 by 10 pieces of fabric. Then we're going to cut our batting. Then I'm going to show you how to fold and press your fabric. And step number 4 will be to actually make the darts. And we make the darts with 1 single cut of your scissors. Then I'm going to show you how to layer the fabric with the batting and sew the big X. Step number 6 is to actually sew the darts. And I'll show you some tips and tricks that I use in order to get those darts just perfect. Step number 7, we're going to be putting the inside and the outside of our cozies together and stitching around the top in order to secure them, leaving a hole to turn our cozy inside out. Step number 8, we're going to turn it and we're going to top stitch, and then we're done. So this video is just going to show you how to make one, but I do have a video coming out to show you how to make these in bulk. So be sure and subscribe to the channel if you want to get that one. That video will be coming soon. So, okay, let's get down to the table. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out the darts in both sides of our material. All right, so because we're using layer cakes, we don't have to prep our material. They are already in our 10 by 10 squares. But again, if you don't have layer cakes or you want to use your own stash, just cut a 10 by 10 square of material times 2, one for the front and one for the back. However, for the batting, I'm going to need to cut out my squares. I'm going to use my acrylic ruler to cut out the squares, but if you don't have an acrylic ruler, all you have to do is lay your 10 by 10 squares on top of your fabric and cut around them. So again, you can do these without having to buy a lot of extra tools or accessories. So I'm going to use my acrylic ruler in my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut out my squares. And again, I'm just doing one. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my 2 layers of batting here using my ruler and my rotary cutter. All right, so I have my 2 pieces of batting. I have my 2 pieces of fabric. The next thing we need to do is to put the darts in. Let's see if you can see it. It's this right here. It's what makes the bowl kind of stand up and give its curve right there. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing 4 of them. But I'm going to show you how to cut one time and get all 4 of these darts. So let me go bring the ironing pad over here and get the iron, and I will walk you through how to fold and cut your material one time so that you have all 4 darts. You can use that then to do the inside of your koozie, and then we'll go on to the next step, which is sewing the batting to the fabric. All right, so if you will take the square of your layer cake and put it face down. You're going to fold it long ways and do a really nice press line there. So fold it in half long ways. Then you're going to rotate the fabric and fold it again on itself, creating a 5 by 5 square. And again, give that a really, really nice press. And like I said, it's going to take you back to the days of making paper snowflakes. So once you have that pressed, then you're going to fold it into a triangle, and it's actually going to be a right triangle. So go ahead and give it another press, making sure you have all of the edges lined up. And this is going to be how you can make one cut and cut all 4 of the darts out at the same time. So place the right triangle facing you with the folded sides to your right, because that is where you're going to make the cut. Okay, I wanted to bring you in a little bit closer so you could really see what I was talking about. So again, here's your right angle, and we're going to come over on the bottom and then down on the side, and we're going to mark it. And I brought this piece of blue leather so that you could really see it. So what you're aiming to do is to come from here to here and cut that so that it will make the darts in all 4 sections. The measurements are a 1/2 inch on the bottom and 2 inches. And I'm going to put this on a piece of paper so that you can actually see it, because it's hard to see on the material. So again, I come from the bottom over about a 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to go down on the side 2 inches, and I'm going to make a cut right across there in one fell swoop. That's going to give me all 4 of my darts. And when I say one fell swoop, what I mean is I put my scissors on there and I just cut it all at one time. And that right there, folks, will get us all 4 of our darts. And as you unfold it, again, think paper snowflakes. You're going to see that I got all 4. Oh, here, let me pull you back up here. And as I unfold it, you're going to see I have all 4 of my darts. And that's how we make our koozies without having to buy a template. So what I then do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to iron these creases out, because I was very intentional in getting them there. So again, just by the way we folded it and that one cut, we made all 4 darts. I'm going to fold it back up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inside of our koozie and I'm going to do it the same way. Again, I'm going to lay it face down. I'm going to fold it long ways and give it a nice press. And then I'm going to fold it again to make a 5 by 5 square. But this time I'm not going to do the triangle. So what you do then is you make sure that you have it matched up. So your folded edge is here. Put this on top. Use it as your guide. And then you just go through and cut along the lines. And again, one fell swoop. And that gives you your outside and your inside of your koozie. So we're using the white or the cream colored one. We're going to use it for the outside, and we're going to use this for the inside. So now both front and back of or the inside and outside of my koozie have their darts cut, and I did not have to buy a template. Now, before I put the batting on here, I just wanted to show you this again using paper so that you can actually see it. So it might have been a little bit hard to see how I folded it with the fabric. So I'm going to take a piece of type-in paper and I made it into an 8.5 by 8.5 square. So it's not the 10 by 10, but what I wanted to show you was how I fold it so that you get an idea and it's much more clear. So again, I take and I fold it in half long ways, and then I turn it to me and I fold it into a square. So I've got a square, and then I'm going to fold it into a triangle. I'm going to match all my corners. All right, and so then I have the right triangle here, and I have the folded edges and the open edges. Okay, and where you want to cut, you want to make sure that all the folded edges are to your right. So you mark over a 1/2 inch, and you mark down 2 inches. Then with your scissors, in one swoop at an angle, you cut from the mark at the top to the mark at the bottom. And then if we have folded everything right, you get the template and you get all 4 darts at the same time. All right, so you notice on the paper, this one is pretty wide, right? So if you want your bowl koozie to have really high sides like this, then make your dart wide. So again, this is a really wide dart. If you want your koozie to be a little less flat, like this, then you make a more narrow dart. So on this one where I cut over like a 1/2 inch, then maybe just cut over, you know, maybe 1/4 of an inch. But that's how you get these to look different. Again, this is a skinnier dart, and see how more flat it is. And this is a wider dart, so it makes the sides stick up a little more. All right, are we ready to go sew? Because that's the next step. We're going to take our batting here and we're going to attach it to the sides of our koozie. All right, so the next step in the process is to attach the batting to the material for each side of the cozy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the machine and sew a big X. So we're going to start at one corner and sew all the way down to the other corner, and then we're going to start at the opposite corner and sew all the way down here. So that will get our big X. We're not cutting out the batting just yet, and you'll see why when I bring it back to the table that I do not go ahead and cut the batting out. So I'm going to take you over to the machine and we're going to do the big X on this section, and then we're going to do the big X on the outside section. And then from there, once we have the big X sewn, we will then cut out the batting and sew our darts and set the inside and the outside, stitch that, flip it, top stitch, and then we'll be done. So it is a really quick process. All right, so step number 5 is to sew the big X. And again, we're going to go from one corner and we're going to sew all the way down to the other corner first. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to sew it on the batting side. Again, I do have my walking foot, but I just find it's easier to sew with the batting upwards. So just straight stitch all the way from one corner to the other corner. And I'm using a 4 stitch length, and that's normally the stitch length that I use when I'm quilting anything. Right, so I sewed from this corner all the way down to this corner. Now I'm going to sew from the opposite corner to finish my big X. And I'm going to do this on both sides. And you can do it either way you want to. It just depends on how you like to sew. Well, this time we'll just turn it over to the fabric. So again, sewing the big X from one corner to the other corner. So let's finish off the other side with the big X. Okay, so we finished both of our front side of our cozy and our inside of our cozy. So I'm going to take you back to the cutting table and we're going to cut out where our batting is. So again, big X. And now what I do is, like I was saying earlier, is I don't cut my darts out of my batting until I've sewn it. Because what this will allow me to do is it will allow me to match it up exactly with the fabric. So I just come in here and cut it out. And I'll cut it out on all the sides. Now, if you have any batting overflow, for example, where my batting is a little bit further out than my material here, I will go ahead and trim that up as well. So I like to get these as close to even as possible before I take them to the machine to actually sew the darts. So I'll just trim it up. And you can use your rotary cutter if you like, but I just had my scissors out here. So again, I'm just going to cut out the darts after I've sewn the batting. So again, I'm going to cut out my batting, or cut out the darts. And I'm going to trim up any overflow of batting that I have. So I have perfectly matched batting and material. And again, the wider your darts, the more your bowl cozy will stand up, the sides will stand up. The more skinny, I have a really hard time with that word. The skinnier your darts are, the flatter they will be. And I'm sure you've already figured out by now, you can make these any size you want. You just need a square of whatever size, and you can follow the same process, and you can make small cozies or very large cozies. So I have my outside and my inside. I'm going to take them to the machine and I'm going to sew the darts. I'm going to fold them together, right sides together, and I'm going to stitch along this line here to form the dart. And I'm going to do that on all 4 sides here, and I'm going to do the same on this one. So let's go to the machine and make the darts. We're almost there. I think we only have 2 steps left. Let's see, what do we have left? After we sew the darts, we will set the inside and the outside and stitch around the top, turn and top stitch. All right, it is time to sew the darts. So I've matched my material up. I have my right sides of my material together, and here's where we've cut out the dart. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be stitching a seam down the dart here, about a little over 1/4 inch. And you're going to start at an angle, and you're going to follow the cut line all the way down and off into the fold material here. And I'm going to back stitch here, and I'm going to back stitch here. So I'm going to put the material under my presser foot, and then all you do is you just let your foot follow the cut line all the way off the material and back stitch. And you're going to do this for all 4 of the darts. So there's dart number 1. And again, match up your material right side together. I flip it to where I'm always starting on the outside, never starting from here. So I always start from the top of the material and stitch down. I never start from the bottom of the dart and stitch up. So again, we just put it on there. And for my machine, my presser foot lines up exactly to where I want my seam allowance to be. So it's real easy for me because I will just let this side of the foot follow this, and it gives me the perfect. But it's just a little over 1/4 inch. I'll back stitch here. And again, I'm just going to let it follow that line. See how it's just following that? And then follow it right off the edge of the material. All right, so let me sew the rest of the darts, and then what I will do from there is I will trim up the seam allowance, and I'll take you back to the cutting table, and I will show you how the inside of the bowl cozy fits into the outside, and we will move on to the next step, which is stitching around the top. All right, so I've sewn all 4 of my darts, and I've trimmed the seam, and so I have the wrong side out. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this to the front just so you guys can see it. All right, let me turn the camera up so you can actually see it. Okay, so once you've flipped it inside out after you've made your darts, here's one side of the cozy, and here's the other side of the cozy. And so you should have nice little sides and peaks. And so here's both sides of our cozy. So with one of them, I want you to take and flip it inside out where the right side of the material is facing you. So you should have right side of the material facing you. You should have the batting side on the second one facing you. Then all you do is you take the side or the side of the cozy where the batting is up and set it in the other one where it's facing you. And then I always like to try to, just kind of go ahead and poke it in because you're wanting to match this up now. So the next step is going to be to sew our cozy all the way around the edges. However, we're going to leave a gap for turning. And I leave my gap for turning on the one of these long sides. So I will not leave it at the corner or at this seam. So I'm going to start about a ½ inch here, and then I'm going to do the sewing all the way around this. Now you can use clips if you want to hold it together. So again, we're going to sew all the way around the cozy, and we're going to leave a gap about this wide so that we can turn it. So let's go to the machine. We are almost done. Once we do this step, all we have to do is top stitch it and we are done. All right, so again, we're going to be stitching all the way around the top edge of our cozy except for a spot about that big so that we can turn it. And again, we're going to use the 3/8 seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch here. And then I'm just going to sew around. I'm going to stop at my corner, so I will needle down at all of my points of my corner. And again, I don't pin these or I don't clip them. I think the layer cakes are so precise, and if you keep your seam allowances, you know, really even, they fit right in there. So I'm just going to sew around. And again, I always needle down at the point so I can pivot it. Oh, you got to put that presser foot down, don't you? And then again, you sew all the way around until you get close to where you started, and then you only, or you leave that gap where you can turn it. All right, let me finish this and get to that side of that gap, and we will turn this, snip some seams, and then we will do a top stitch and we will be done. Okay, I'm coming to the end, and see, this is where I started. So I'm going to get myself past the seam. Just past that seam, and I'm going to back stitch. Now, before I turn this, I am going to clip the ends of my points. So that they'll be a little bit easier to turn. And I'm going to clip where this dart is. I'm just going to barely clip in here. Don't clip close to that seam, but just barely clip about 4 times. And that will help relax that dart a little bit so that when you turn it, it won't have so much pressure on that dart area. But just 4. I only do 2 on one side and 2 on the other. Okay, now we're going to turn it. But so we have sewn all the way around our cozy with our right sides together and our batting sides out. And here is the hole. All right, so now you just flip it inside out through the hole that you left. All right, so I've turned it inside out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to go along and I'm going to poke out all of the corners, all of the points. And you can use a butter knife. I've got one of my Cricut tools that I use, something to get those corners a little bit more pointy if you want them. So I'm just going to take my fingers. Look, we're almost done. We are so very close. And look, well, I thought that I was going to use this as the outside, but I'm going to leave the pumpkins on the outside because I now love that. So let me get my tool. So this is what I use. I use this tool that I have from Cricut, but again, I've also used a butter knife, and I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to round those seams out. I'm not looking to get the point, I'm just looking to round them. So I will do that on all my corners. And then the next step that we have is to top stitch. Before I top stitch though, I usually run it to the iron and just press it. Then that way it will give me just a better lineup for the top stitching. So let me do this, and then I'm going to run it to the iron. And when I'm at the iron, actually I'll just bring it over here. Okay, so I've done that. And I don't like them to be super pointy. This is so cute. All right, so here's where we turned it, and there's where I popped those seams a little bit. So when I take it over to the iron, I will fold those over so I can stitch it. But sometimes what I do is I will just go ahead and reduce a little bulk here. Oh, these are the paper scissors. That's why they don't cut so well. I'll just reduce a little bulk there so that I can match those seams back up. All right, so when I iron these, after they're done, is I will take where the point is and I'll run my iron all the way to the center, and I'll give it a really good press so that when I go to top stitch, that, you know, those seams are together and they really don't have any chance of moving on me. So I will just press this, and then I will take it to the machine and top stitch it. We'll come back here and wrap up the project, and then you can go make 100 gazillion bowl koozies. All right, I've finished pressing, and I pressed the area where we turned it, and I'm going to start my top stitching at that point when I take it over to the machine. But it is so super cute. I love it. So, okay, let's top stitch it, and then we will wrap up and be done. Okay, so our final step is to do the top stitching, and I always like to start where I had the hole to turn it. So I'm just going to put it under the presser foot. Needle down. And then I'm just going to sew around. I am going to take a little bit of caution when I get to the darts and the seams, so that, because there's a little bit more bulk there. So I'll start out and then I'm just going to top stitch. But again, I've kept my stitch length at 4 through this whole project. And again, I just go really slow over that darted area because there is quite a bit of bulk there. And then when I get to the corners, I always have this 1, 2, 3, 4. So I start and count 1, 2, 3, 4 to turn it. But you can stop it and rotate it completely, or you can just do a circle turn. So again, I'm just going to top stitch, and I'm going to do my 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we have finished a bowl koozie. These are all the ones I've made getting ready for the tutorial, and I can't wait to make more. So if you enjoyed this tutorial, I would like for you to go watch this video up here. It's how to make the no-cut rag quilts. It's been one of my most popular videos, and please subscribe because I'm going to be showing you how to make these in bulk. So we just did one today, but I'm going to walk you through the process of how we can say make, let's see, there's 42 squares in a layer cake, so that would be 21. So let's say 21 cozies in an evening. So if you need a gift idea, if you need a crafts fair idea, you'll want to subscribe to see that bulk video. So again, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I enjoyed making it for you. I mostly enjoyed making all these cozies too. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I've got to get ready for supper. I'm Melissa. This is Make with Melissa, and I hope you have a good day. See you. Bye.